Hello friends and welcome back to the channel. I'm the GM Philosopher, and today I want to talk about one of those bigger problems that can happen in a D&D game, and this problem has the potential to ruin a good D&D game. And unlike some problems I talk about on this channel, this isn't necessarily a problem that is the GM's fault or that the GM even necessarily creates, though it can happen with a GM who makes some mistakes. This is actually a thing that can and often will happen on its own during a game, even during a healthy, great, creative game of D&D. But as a GM, it's really important for you to be aware of it because you can stop it and you can completely mitigate it and have a two-step process for how to make that happen. So you're going to want to make sure and listen to the end because I'm going to describe the problem, then I'm going to describe exactly how you can avoid having this problem ruin your games. With that being said, as I continue on in this video, if you realize that you've dealt with this problem before and you have a good solution to it, please drop it in the comments. I would love to hear your take on this. Have you experienced it? Has it been a problem in your games? Please let me know. I would love to hear it. Let's keep that conversation going. All right, so here's the problem. And I'm going to give you an example that I experienced over the course of this last weekend. Over the course of this last weekend, I did not play D&D. I actually played Magic the Gathering with some friends. We had a great 5-player pod, awesome stuff, played 2 pretty long-form games of Commander. If you ever play Commander, you know that a 5-player pod can take quite a while to resolve. With that being said, in game number 2, one of the players got taken out extremely early in the game through a series of very unfortunate events on his part. And he was left sitting while the rest of the game progressed and the players played. And, the other 4 of us got kind of knocked out toward the end of the game, but he was stuck there for quite a while, just kind of by himself. And he was obviously, he was less interested now that he wasn't in the game. He was kind of bored. It was just not a good experience for him, right? Now, this is sort of par for the course when you're playing a competitive game like Magic the Gathering. Obviously, people have to get eliminated for the game to resolve. But in D&D, it's not the case. It is a collaborative storytelling endeavor where the players generally work together to create a narrative, story, plot arc for their characters. And these characters have interweaving experiences in the story, and the story involves the shared intellectual artistic creations of the stories created by these characters. With that being said, I have noticed sometimes in my D&D games, I will have players get a little bit withdrawn. And it reminded me a little bit of the gentleman who got knocked out of the Magic game early. They can get a little bit withdrawn and they can lose enthusiasm for the game. Their excitement will wane, their energy will just kind of not be the same, and I will notice that something's happening to them. Maybe they're getting bored, maybe they're getting disinterested with the game, maybe they're getting disinterested in the plot arcs they're pursuing, maybe they're even getting a little bored with their character. Maybe there's stuff happening in the game that's making them feel stifled. Maybe they want to do XYZ things and they've brought it up and you have shot it down as the GM, not even meaning to, hurt their feelings or shut down their creativity just because what they wanted to do was broken. But still, maybe they had I'd love to do this, and then it got shut down, and maybe they're a little bit disappointed. Regardless, what I'm kind of talking about is a gradual waning of enthusiasm and energy in relation to the game. Now, this can happen, this problem, and this is the problem I want to discuss. This is kind of the problem that I think is maybe the worst problem you can have in your games. And part of the reason for it being such a bad problem is that a lot of GMs can fix it, but they do not notice it. And so they don't take action. And I'm going to help you understand how I've dealt with this in my games. But let me just describe for a minute a very important detail. It is absolutely true that if a GM is running a game and they are not letting the players do anything cool, they're just kind of running the game with a tyrannical fist and the players don't feel like they have any agency, this is going to be the natural recourse for them. But what I'm talking about is a little different for them. That's zero agency GMing, which is sort of a different problem. What I'm talking about are GMs who do give their players agency, who run awesome games, who run fun, creative games, and players generally enjoy those games. What happens when a player starts to have a loss of enthusiasm while playing a game like that, where there really isn't a specific reason for why, and the other players don't seem to kind of, at least right now, share in this waning of enthusiasm? Well, listen, I've come to find that during a D&D game, especially a longer-term campaign, there is a sort of cyclic energy where players will kind of wax and wane in their enthusiasm toward their characters, toward the plot line, and even sometimes toward the story and the game as a whole. And of course, as a GM, you want to get ahead of this and you want to kind of stop it before it happens, because if it continues on for too long, the player just might get disinterested in the game. They may even drop out of the game. And then this is not a situation any of us want, right? As GMs, we want to run awesome games that players want to play. And as players, we want to play in awesome games that we're excited to play in. So how do we avoid this happening? How do we avoid this maybe potentially natural thing that can happen just as a natural recourse of playing a long-term game? How can we help to make this better and not be such an issue? Well, I have come up with a two-step process for this. And it's very simple. I call it scan and evolve. And this is so simple. And I'm just going to share with you because it has actually been a huge game saver for me. So the first thing is I'm always trying to pay attention to if this is happening to players. Now, on the macro level, as GMs, we want to make sure that our players are engaged. We want to make sure they're energized. We want to make sure that we're running a game that gives our players free creative agency where they can create amazing plot arcs that they're excited about. But on a micro level, we also want to pay attention to each player's experience in our game. Let's say we are doing all these things right. We are running an open-ended game with free agency. Players can have their creative destinies, and you're not crushing their creative endeavors. You are helping them fulfill their desires for their characters. What if you have a player who's still acting a bit withdrawn, right? Well, the first most important thing to understand is that I believe this is a natural part of sort of the cycle, and every single player, I believe, goes through these types of stages. Sort of like in life, when you get bored with your job, or you like your job, but you're a little bored with it. Or maybe you wake up, you walk your dog every day, you read the paper, you have the same thing for breakfast. Life can start to feel a little bit stale. Maybe it's time to go on a vacation, or maybe it's time to change up your routine. This same thing can happen in D&D. So what you want to do is scan and watch out for it. When it starts to happen with one of your players, take note. And that leads us to step number 2. Step number 2 is you throw 4, 5, 6 different out of the blue, different things, unique things, surprising things at that player to shake things up. And here's what you want to get. You want to find 1 or 2 things that they really grab a hold of, that they seem to enjoy, that seems to perk them up. Maybe you throw a couple random NPCs their way who start some zany conversations, or maybe they find a cursed item and they start an adventure that way, or maybe they get hit on by a maid at the local tavern, or maybe they end up getting falsely accused of a crime, and then they have to go through this process of vindicating themselves. And along that journey, they meet an amazing small town public defender who's fighting for justice, and it turns out he's being hunted by a criminal gang and he needs help, and maybe the player can help him, right? So there's all kinds of possibilities, and you as the GM can come up with all kinds of creative things to throw at these people. In fact, if you need some plot arcs to help you with this, download my ultimate plot randomizer. It's an ebook. You can find the link in the description, and when you download it, you join my email list, which is awesome because I send out emails to my group 3 times a week full of even deeper D&D tips and news about upcoming events. With that being said, if you download that, you can random roll some awesome plot arcs on the fly for your characters, or you can come up with some awesome ones using your own creativity. Now, though, here's the point, and this is the evolve aspect. You're going to throw a bunch of plot arcs, a bunch of NPCs, maybe a bunch of situations, a random scattering of different possibilities at this player who's having a bit of waning enthusiasm. And you're going to see what sticks. You're going to see which of these things perks them up and gets them excited. And now you know you've got them hooked. And now you know, this is a new thing I can introduce and make it a serious part of that player's arc in the game. They never even saw this coming. I just threw this in there because I detected they were getting a little bit stale. I want to help shake things up. I want to keep things exciting. And when they experience that boost in energy, that's an indicator that you have picked something good, and that if you keep it going, will probably help to elevate their excitement level. And then, of course, you can pick up on other things and you can keep it going. But when we do the scan and evolve, this happens so often, I think, that I almost every other session notice that a player needs something new. I have a pretty big group, anywhere from 5 to 7 players generally. So it's not so uncommon that I feel like one of the players, maybe their arcs are running a little stale. They need something to shake it up. They need something to reinvigorate the experience. And so I will throw these things in there and really get it hooked. And sometimes it surprises me what they choose to pursue. Sometimes it surprises me what excites them. I would have never thought this thing would excite them or make them more excited about their character, or that they would want to pursue it. But the fact that I'm kind of throwing a bunch of things out there and letting them choose over the course of the game is sort of the magic that comes with that evolve aspect, because we never know what a player might like too. role play or what they might like to pursue. So anyway, there you go. There's my 2-step method. Hey, listen, thank you so much for coming by. Give me a thumbs up and a subscribe. I'm here almost every day creating videos about the best game in the world, D&D. And if you give me that thumbs up and that subscribe, it helps me grow my channel and makes it way more awesome. Leave a comment if you have a request. If you want to request a video, I'll probably make a video about it. I love getting requests, and making the videos, answering those requests is so much fun. With that being said, thank you so much for coming by. Thank you for watching the video. I hope to see you again soon. And that, my friends, will be it. See you on the next one.